welcome to the on-campus office here for this discussion of the Iron Bowl. We will first look at a couple of videos, YouTube clips. The first one will give us some history or some recent history of the Iron Bowl. It is dated a little bit, it's a few years old, but it gives us a nice overview of what's happened in this competition between Alabama and Auburn since 2000, basically.
It's been a series of streaks lately in the Iron Bowl. Started in 2000, Auburn won 7 of 8, including 6 in a row. Definitely a low point for Tide fans, but since 2008, Bama has the momentum, winning 4 of 5, and that includes a current 2-game winning streak. Here's a look back at some of the recent matchups. In the 2008 Iron Bowl, Alabama came in as the #1 ranked team in the country. Bama dominated on the ground, running for 234 yards with 3 touchdowns. The Crimson Tide defense didn't even allow a Cody Burns-led Auburn offense to enter the red zone the entire game. Bama cruised to a 36-0 final. The win marked Alabama's first shutout of the Tigers since 1992, and the 36-point spread was the largest margin of victory in the Iron Bowl since 1962. The next game would prove to be much more competitive. In 2009, both teams traded punches, and Auburn led 21-20 late in the fourth quarter, when Tide quarterback Greg McElroy led a 15-play, 79-yard drive for the winning score. Foley's Julio Jones came up big in the drive, catching 4 passes to move the chains. A McElroy to Roy Upchurch play-action pass from the 4 capped the memorable drive. Bama wins 2 in a row, final 26-21. The winning streak, however, would be short-lived, thanks in large part to Cam Newton. In 2010, the Tide built a 24-7 halftime lead, but Newton and the Tigers came storming back. The eventual Heisman Trophy winner ran for 1 score and threw for 3 others to keep Auburn's perfect season alive and stun the Alabama faithful in Bryant Denny. Final score, Auburn 28, Bama 27. The next year, the Tide would return the favor in Jordan-Hare. Pensacola's Trent Richardson ran for 203 yards and caught a touchdown pass. Mobile's A.J. McCarron threw for 3 scores, and the Tide's defense held Auburn to just 140 yards of total offense. Bama wins big, 42-14. Now, last year, it got even uglier for the Auburn faithful. The Tigers didn't stand a chance against second-ranked Alabama. McCarron one-upped his previous Iron Bowl performance, throwing for 4 touchdowns, and Eddie Lacy scored twice as Bama dominated the struggling Tigers 49-0. So what will history have to say about the matchup Saturday in Jordan-Hare? We'll find out in 6 short days. Now,
Okay, so this gives you a nice quick, I just made some quick notes here summarizing what's happened basically over the last 2 decades or so. So around the 2000 mark, Auburn had 7 wins, or excuse me, Auburn had 7 wins in a row, right? So they were just dominating Alabama. Of course, this is before Nick Saban arrives at Alabama. And then after that 7-game win streak, Alabama wins 4 out of 5, including a win in 2008, 36-0, so just crushing Auburn. Then 2009, a closer win for Alabama. Then 2010, a year that maybe some of you remember watching this game because it did go back and forth, a very close 1-point win for Auburn. So they get their first win in a while under the direction of Heisman Trophy winner Cam Newton. Then 2011, you had Alabama pretty much crushing Auburn by 30 points, and following that up in 2012 by crushing their rival by almost 50 points. And you heard a lot of superstars referred to in that short clip. Julio Jones, for instance, Cam Newton, Trent Richardson, who also won the Heisman, A.J. McCarron, who we know locally here, having been a Bengal for several years. This kind of sets the background of this back and forth, right, between the two. One team wins for several years in a row and looks like they're just going to dominate, and then all of a sudden the other team strengthens and they win several in a row, right? And that win in 2010 by Auburn wins the national championship that year, right? And of course we know Alabama's won a few national championships during this time period. So the next clip that we'll watch is one that we watched a little earlier in the course as well. But this background is leading up to the 2013 game, obviously several years ago, but this is how that game ended.
Well, I guess if this thing comes up short, he can field it and run it out. All right, here we go. 56-yarder. Does not have the leg. And Chris Davis takes it in the back of the end zone. He'll run it out to the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. Auburn's going to win the football game. He ran the missed field goal back. He ran it back 109 yards. They're not going to keep him off the field tonight. Holy cow. Oh, my God. Auburn wins. Auburn has won the Iron Bowl. Auburn has won the Iron Bowl in the most unbelievable fashion you will ever see. I cannot believe it. 34-28. And we thought a miracle in Jordan Hare was amazing. Oh, my Lord in heaven. Chris Davis just ran it 109 yards. And Auburn is going to the championship game.
All right, so a very crazy play. There's been a lot of crazy plays and defining moments within this particular rivalry. Let's talk a little bit about some further history here. So this game was actually played at a neutral site for many years before returning to campuses in the year 2000. It was played in Birmingham. Of course, both of these, obviously, Alabama is in Alabama, in Tuscaloosa, but Auburn also is in the state of Alabama, for anyone who's not at all familiar with the University of Auburn. This is, playing in a neutral site is something that was popular for a while, not just in this rivalry game, but in a few other rivalry games. And now it seems like the trend has turned to campus sites. I think there's just something about playing on a college campus that fits in the culture of college athletics itself. So this was one of those rivalries that was at a neutral site for a while. Along with this quick lecture, or relatively quick lecture, I assigned the documentary Roll Tide, War Eagle, which is an ESPN film that hopefully, if you haven't watched already, you should watch it. It's very interesting, and perhaps one of the most interesting parts is when an Alabama fan claims to engage in poisoning Toomer's trees, which are on the campus of Auburn. They're very famous trees on the corner, one entrance to the Auburn campus. And this Alabama fan gets mad because, according to him, somebody had put a Scam Newton jersey on the statue of Bear Bryant, the famous Alabama coach, in Tuscaloosa. And so his retaliation was to poison these very famous and historic trees on Auburn's campus. And then he calls into the Feinbaum Show, a sports talk radio show all across the SEC country, and admits or brags about this incident And rightly so, Feinbaum realizes this is a crime, and he has taken it a little bit too far, or quite a bit too far, taken the intensity of this rivalry too far by engaging in that action. So, that leads us to a nice question here around this rivalry, and that we can extend to other rivalries, is how far is too far? That's one of the interesting things about rivalry, is that you want to use it to increase demand and get people to watch games on TV and get excited about it, buy merchandise, buy tickets to the game. But at the same time, you don't want it heightened so much that, for example, in this case, a fan is engaging in vandalism, or even worse, some type of violence. And one of the strategies that I would recommend, and that our research shows, the research that I do on rivalry shows as being somewhat effective, is to have the two fan bases engage in something together, and usually it's for some sort of a good cause. So, for example, in another rivalry that we'll talk about, the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry, the week leading up to the football game, they do a blood drive competition. And it's been going on for decades, and they keep track of, who donates the most blood to the American Red Cross, on which campus in that week leading up to the game. And there's a lot of activities around it where people can donate blood around kind of a tailgate theme and things like that. And so doing things like that helped each fan base to get out of their sort of in-group identification and identify or get to know the out-group a little bit, and realize that, in a lot of cases, and this is probably one of those rivalries, the similarities are much greater than the differences between the two, although in rivalry we like to emphasize the differences, and the media certainly likes to emphasize that. So that's one strategy for moderating a rivalry that perhaps has gotten too far. You saw in the in the Roll Tide War Eagle video when a tornado went through Tuscaloosa. Some of the biggest contingent of people outside Tuscaloosa to come in to help were from Auburn, coming in to help their bitter rival on the field recover after this tornado. 2013, we already watched the video there, was quite an exciting moment. So why are these two teams rivals? We already mentioned a few different things. Defining moments, certainly, would be one. Geography would be another, both being located in the state of Alabama and being the two biggest institutions of higher education in the state of Alabama that produces the most grads. That's certainly going to be a battle for supremacy in the state, and because they're the two biggest institutions, their alumni interact quite a bit, and it's kind of like when you're born in the state of Alabama, you have to choose a side. So geography plays into that, and along with geography, you have cultural similarity. Both schools, being in Alabama, share kind of an Old South culture to them. They're in the same conference, the SEC. So there is some cultural similarity in that regard. Both public schools, very large schools. Beyond defining moments, geography, cultural similarity, we have star power, right? Star power in both coaches and players. I mentioned some of the stars a minute ago when we were watching some of the highlights from this rivalry from several years ago. But there's also, of course, coaching star power, and lots of it in this rivalry. You have, I'm going to say, some degree of parity, although we see it continually go back and forth between the two. One team wins for a while, and then the other team wins for a little while. In the all-time series, I think Alabama is up by about 10 games, 10 wins or so, something around that within this series. Let's see, what else are we missing? Parity. Oh, frequency of play. So they play every year during what ESPN dubs as being rivalry week, and most people consider rivalry week in college football, which is basically that week of Thanksgiving when there's a lot of different rivalry games. And so that's scheduled for this, one of the biggest rivalries of that week every single year. So we have a pretty good list here of different factors that make this our rivalry. We saw some of the defining moments on the field, and the documentary had a few defining moments off the field. We saw some of the stars. There's certainly some cultural similarity here, and some parity with both schools having won national championships relatively recently, and then frequency of play and star power.